Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, Los Angeles, and welcome in to another episode of the LA Football Podcast here on the LA Football Network, your destination for your favorite Los Angeles football teams. We're also on the Believe Podcast Network. Hope you're all doing great. Got a great show for you today. We did a live broadcast on YouTube at LAFB Network, Facebook, and Twitter, all at LAFB Network for future live broadcasts. But I jump on with Jessie Naylor. He's a writer for Sports Illustrated covering the Niners and also does the Last Second Sports podcast and YouTube channel. So we talk Rams, Niners, the rivalry. The interview did get cut a little short. When you do live, life happens. He had a little, I'll just let you listen to it, but he had a little emergency, nothing, no one's hurt or anything like that. So we had to cut the interview short, which we'll reschedule part 2. So it ended up being great. This is part 1, and then we'll have part 2 probably just another day or 2 later when we reschedule for the end of it. Yeah, a lot of fun. So this episode of the LA Football Podcast brought to you by our friends at betonline.ag. You know them well. We just had the home run derby. You could have bet on the home run derby. A lot of money to be made if you took Alonso, who was just smashing bombs. I'm a Colorado guy, as many of you know. I was rooting for the hometown, or not really hometown, but the Rockies player, Trevor Story, from Texas, actually. But, got out of the first round, which is great. He wasn't expected to do much, so we'll take it. But yeah, Alonso smashing bombs. But anyway, betonline.ag, you could bet on that. That's gone now, but you still have a few games left in the NBA Finals. You have the rest of the baseball season, or like I'm going to do, because I just know football. This is an LA Football Podcast. You can just bet on future NFL games, whether it's predicting the Super Bowl winner, division winners, whatnot, any of that stuff. So just head to betonline.ag. You want to do it mobile or desktop. First time sign up bonus 50%. So there's that going for you. betonline.ag. Tell them the guys at LAFB sent you. So with that being said, hope everyone has had a great week thus far. I'm pumped. We're a week away from training camp. Football is finally almost back. Yeah, I mean, it never really ends. We got, free agency, draft, all that. But this last month truly is. Once minicap's over, we're truly actually in like the dead period. So excited to really get into it. So here is part 1 of our conversation, Rams, Niners, with Jessie Naylor. What's going on, Los Angeles? Excited to be live. A little different. We usually do LAFB live on Saturdays, but got a special live edition on a Wednesday with a special guest as we can trash talk a little bit, talk Rams and Niners. He is Jessie Naylor with the Last Second Sports, podcast and YouTube channel, and also does writing for Sports Illustrated, the 49ers side. What's up, brother? How you doing? Welcome to the LA Football Podcast. Thanks for jumping on with me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I'm glad that you obliged in doing this. I thought it'd be a cool idea, but dude, that intro, man, that was some cool stuff. You got me pumped. I'm not even an LA fan, but that was cool, man. You got me hyped. So
appreciate
I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I try to stay humble, but I do like our intro video. I feel like it's a good hype video, so
it's definitely slick.
Yeah, it's fun stuff in there. So, but yeah, man, I mean, pumped. You reached out to me, wanted to get together and talk ball, which is always a blast, and I love doing it anyway, and especially in the off season right now. We're a week away from training camp, which is crazy. But let's get to know each other first, because I mean, this is the first time kind of we're hanging out. I know we talked a little bit on Twitter, but you cover the Niners. I talked a little bit about off air, but I guess, how are you a Niners fan, and kind of what is all the stuff you're doing covering the team?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Portland, Oregon. And the Niners were like the team on Fox every Sunday. That was until Seattle came over and ruined all that for us. But yeah, they were the team on Fox every Sunday. And so always got to watch their games. My dad was from California, so he was a Niner fan. Naturally, I followed in his footsteps. And then, now I've moved to Tampa in 2018. Obviously, not going to change my allegiance, even though it is Champa Bay out here, as they like to call it.
Crazy.
And I know again. They win everything. It's ridiculous. Hockey, they almost won baseball. They got football. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, man. So I'm fortunate enough to write for All 49ers Sports Illustrated, and I've got my own, podcast / channel, Last Second Sports, where we talk basically everything football. And that's what kind of prompted me to reach out to you. Is I just want to get an LA fan's perspective basically on exactly how you guys see the division, how you see your team, how you see the 49ers, right? Because obviously I'm in this bubble of 49er fans, and so everybody wants to love their team. I'm a little bit more pessimistic than some people like about the team. I like to think that I'm very realistic about what expectations are, but even outside of that, hearing what other people think of the 49ers, especially in division, I think it's important to get that perspective. So I'm glad that you decided to do this with me. I think it's cool.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun because I think the Niners have a lot of talent. I've been fairly vocal my thoughts on Shanahan, and we'll get into all of it, which I think will be fun. But also hearing your perspective on the Rams, because I think obviously the excitement out here with now getting Stafford is like palpable. Like people are so pumped, and then there's some side of the coin where people are like, okay, let's rein it in a little bit here. Maybe it's not as great as people think. So I'll be curious to hear what you think about that. So it'll be fun to go back and forth and get different perspectives. But I got to ask though, now that you've been in Tampa, are you a hockey fan at all? Are you a Lightning fan?
No, I'm not a hockey fan at all. I could care less about hockey.
Hockey's great. You got to get into it. Now that you have a two-time champ back-to-back.
Right.
I know. I grew up playing hockey, so I'm a little biased always to hockey. So
okay, yeah.
I don't think it gets the love and respect it deserves.
Yeah, well, like I'll give you an example. I love playing baseball, but I don't like watching baseball, right? I'm not a big fan of watching it, but I do love to play it. So I imagine playing hockey, probably a little bit different. I'm sure if I could actually lace up skates and ice skate, that I would probably enjoy it a little bit.
Have you been to a game ever?
I have been to a game. Yeah, I've actually been to a couple games, and live it is definitely entertaining. It keeps my focus, but it's just not my cup of tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Understandable. So football it is, which is my number one too. So let's get right into it. Right, talking about the offseason. Obviously, we're almost done. Finally, getting in the training camp. Rams made one big move, lost some guys. Niners, obviously with the draft, getting Trey Lance is obviously a huge move, but just overall, I'll let you go first. What's your thoughts on the Niners offseason? What's their grades? And if you want to jump into what you think the Rams have done too, just in comparison to two, because I mean, this division, I know there's arguments with the AFC West also, which is fun because we cover the Chargers too, but I think the NFC West right now is the best division in football right now. So how do you think the two teams did this offseason?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, real quick about the AFC West, my bold prediction that I've been saying is this is the last year that the Chiefs run the AFC West. I really think the Chargers are primed to actually come back and get some games there. I love what they're doing over in San Diego. So I think that you guys are going to have a lot of fun covering them going forward. And Herbert, again, I said I'm from Oregon. There we go, Oregon Ducks. I am an Oregon Duck fan. So,
you
got a good quarterback there.
Did you go to U of O?
I did not go to U of O, no. I went to a small community college, so.
Gotcha. But you're a Duck fan. That's good. So, yeah, Herbert's special, man. But anyway,
he is. He's very special. But, so, getting to the NFC West, for the Niners, I gave them a B grade. And basically, I just split the difference between what I thought their draft was and what I thought their offseason as far as free agency was. Free agency, I gave them a B minus. And overall, the reason that I did that is because I just felt like even though they were able to retain all the big names that they wanted to retain, for me, I think they're a little long in the tooth. And the 49ers last year were the fourth oldest team in the NFL, and I wanted them to get a little bit younger. And they did the opposite. They actually got older. They're the second oldest team in the NFL right now. And that presents problems, especially for a team that does have some injury history and couldn't stay healthy last year. And even in 2019, when they went to the Super Bowl, they had issues staying healthy then. And so for me to see them get a little bit older was disappointing, but they brought back some good names, right? They brought back the Veretts. They brought back the Trent Williams. They did what they needed to do to keep the team together, but I guess I'm not as big of a fan of the run it back from 2019 as some other 49er fans are. So for me, I gave them a B minus there. And then in the draft, I gave them a B plus. I loved Trey Lance. Everybody was saying Justin Fields, and I was on the Trey Lance train early on. As soon as they made that trade to 3, that's the guy that I thought that they would pick. That's the guy I wanted them to pick. So I'm very happy with that. But I am disappointed that they waited so long to get a corner. And so I couldn't jump them into that A category for the draft. And so overall, I gave them a solid B. I would say for the Rams, probably a B minus. You know, I love the Stafford thing. Absolutely love the Stafford thing. But you guys have this tendency of getting yourself in trouble with the salary cap, right? And getting rid of all these first round picks. It's like they're playing Madden. It's the craziest thing. But they're competitive. It's very unique. It's a very unique way to go after winning a Super Bowl. And you can't knock it because they've done very well under McVay. But I'm not a fan of getting rid of multiple first round picks. And I also have to go back and remember that they traded so much to get Goff in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. Then they traded Goff, took that cap hit and so much more to get Stafford. Clear upgrade, great quarterback. But it's just the salary cap that I think of. And then, you know, in the draft, there just wasn't a lot of room for wiggle. I was surprised that they went with a wide receiver, I believe it was, with their first pick. That was a little surprising to me. But overall, I mean, the Rams are still a very good team, and getting a quarterback at Stafford's caliber, I mean, heck, the 49ers wanted them, and that just came out in a podcast recently. So I can't give them anything worse than a B minus.
Yeah. I'll snake it. So I'll go with the Rams, and I'll go on the Niners. I agree with you, actually. I think they I can't go C plus because when you upgrade the most important position on the team, but I would go B minus too. Stafford, huge get. It was an obvious upgrade, but I was not as hard on Goff as much of the fan base was, but I did think it was time for them to move on. Just, you know, time to try something new. McVay inherited Goff. It wasn't like his guy, and he did what he could with him, but he clearly wanted someone in a different direction. I think he got his guy in Stafford. So that was an obvious upgrade. So that alone puts them in that B plus category, or probably B plus, even A category. But then other than that, they weren't able to, because of the cap strap, they weren't able to add anyone. They lose John Johnson to the Browns. They lose Troy Hill to the Browns. So those are big parts of their defense that if they want to run it back, now they're losing those. Now, luckily, they have a lot of depth at safety. They have some decent depth at corner. They were able to retain Darius Williams with the tag. So it wasn't always lost. But, you know, when you lose big names like that and you don't add anyone, like literally did not sign anyone in free agency. They traded for Stafford, lost some big names, and then re-signed Leonard Floyd. And that was it. That was free agency for them. So, I think a B minus is fair. But they did upgrade the most important position on the field. So that's
for
huge.
Sure.
The draft, the fun thing about the draft, I don't know how much you've been or seen or looked into Rams Twitter or whatnot, but a lot of mixed reviews. But when the draft was happening live, it was all like mind blowing. Like, what is going on? Tutu Atwell with your first pick,
right?
And then taking a linebacker, Ernest Jones, when, you know, Baron Browning was right there. They had other linebackers available, and it's so on and so forth all through the draft. There's like never taking an offensive lineman. But as you get into it more, and we at the LA Football Network have really dug into it and done a lot of film study, I actually like their draft a lot. I think Tutu, what he can bring to the offense, because they signed Deshaun Jackson, but, you know, he's, you know, one play away from missing the whole season.
For sure.
Older. So he's not going to give you a ton, whereas Tutu can be kind of the guy that can A, learn from him, but B, just another guy to stretch the field. And you figure the weapons they have now, they can truly run McVay's offense. So as you peel the onion back, you look at the film. I actually really like the draft. I actually really love the Tutu Atwell draft pick just because of what he brings. But yeah, so I think B minus overall the offseason is good. For the Niners, I agree with you too. I think overall, I love Trey Lance. I mean, he was obviously outside of Trevor Lawrence. I think he was my favorite quarterback. I said like 4 days before the draft. I don't know if you know this. All my listeners do know, and I get crap for them all the time. But fanhood, actually, I'm a Broncos fan. I grew up in Denver. But, you know, it allows me to be subjective, right? So I can cover the other teams and not just be fan out. But I said I thought the Broncos at 9 were all in on Trey Lance if the Niners did go with Mac Jones, like some people were so wrong about, but a lot of people were saying. So I thought if they did that, the Broncos would either trade up and take Lance, or if he fell to them, they would take him. But obviously that didn't happen. They took him, and then everyone was shocked when the Broncos didn't take Fields. But it's just because I think they were all in on Lance, and obviously the Niners got him. So I think he's perfect for what Shanahan wants to do. We'll see. Well, let me ask you this while we're on that topic. Do you think he starts day one, or do you think they wait a few games? There's no way he's sitting out like the whole season.
Yeah, that's definitely not happening. Yeah, I've been very bullish, and 49er Twitter has been down my throat about it. And I don't care. I'm standing firm. Basically, as soon as he was drafted, I said he's starting day one. And I was very fortunate. I've had 2 interviews now with Trey Lance's quarterback coach, one before the draft, about 3 weeks before the draft, and then one a couple weeks after the draft. And I just feel like I know the kid so well, the ins and outs of what makes him tick, why Shanahan would have fallen in love with him. It just really reinforced him being the right pick for me. And so, yeah, I believe that through the athleticism, through the big arm, what I really found out about the kid that impressed me is he had a very verbose playbook, all right, over in college. And then he also called his own protections and called his own audibles. And so as soon as I knew those things and I was able to actually see that on film, I just said no brainer. I mean, everybody thought it was Mac Jones, and I think a lot of that was because of the shoulders up. Well, Trey Lance has all those same attributes. He's a very smart kid. He played under center a lot. He's really NFL ready, and he had some mechanical issues, but he was able to work through those, and they were able to work through those in the year that he had off. And so, yeah, I do. I believe that he starts day one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think my only concern at all with him was the fact that they had an entire year off, but at the same time, it's not like he was just sitting on the couch. Like he was still doing stuff, working on things, probably getting almost better work than he would have maybe gotten against, the talent they played in FCS, being from North Dakota State. I mean, I don't know. That's probably a bad knock on those teams. I don't want to say that. But he was still getting work in. So it'll be interesting to see when he does, but I agree with you. I think he could be the day one starter, and he adds a lot to their offense that obviously Jimmy G doesn't. So let me ask you
a quick question too. What, as a LA guy and a Rams guy, what is the overall fan base's thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I can't stand Jimmy, and the 49er fans are really at an even split. It's almost 60-40 Jimmy, that they think Jimmy should be the guy this year. And I cannot stand Jimmy. I think makes too many mistakes. And I'm thinking at it from an outsider's perspective. If I'm a fan base, I want to play that guy every week. Is that kind of the vibe that you get from Rams fans?
Oh, 100%. Okay. I think every Rams fan would rather face Jimmy G than the unknown of Trey Lance, just because he gives you that. Yeah, I know it's unknown, but that athleticism, the 28 touchdowns, no interceptions, like there's something there. Whereas Jimmy G, you just know what he is. Like,
yeah,
if
he doesn't scare you, right?
Yeah, not at all.
Okay,
not at all. So, but full disclosure, Jesse, I've never been like a Jimmy G guy. Like I was shocked when the Niners traded and then immediately signed him to like a $27.5 million per year contract after 3 NFL games.
Yeah.
So that was always strange to me anyway. And obviously he's had some good games for you guys and did play in a Super Bowl. We can go down that road. I would argue
he played in a Super Bowl like Goff played in a Super Bowl. Let's be honest.
Or like,
and I would take Goff over Garoppolo.
Yeah, I would too. Okay, we're on the same page there. So, all right, let's look at. I just thought of this while we were talking, but I think this is a good question. Both the Niners and Rams lost their defensive coordinators to head coaching jobs.
Yeah.
How big? Because I know how big Brandon Staley's been for this Rams team. I do like the hire with Raheem Morris, but it's still going to be some adjustments. I think it's a big loss. How big of a loss is it for you guys losing your defensive coordinator to now the head coach of the Jets?
Man, it's a big deal. It really is. I mean, it's funny because 49ers fans wanted to get rid of Saleh after about a year and a half. They're just like, this guy's not it. We got to look in a different direction. He's not ready for this position. But year 3, I mean, he really obviously won the fan base over. That defense was amazing. And then last year is when he really showed how good he was. The amount of injuries that team had, and for him to keep them afloat, that said it all. He's he's a true leader, right? He's not necessarily the best schemer, and he kind of grew into that those last couple of years. But as far as a leader and a player's coach, I mean, that is definitely going to be missed. To me, he's the antithesis of Shanahan, and so I think they played really well off each other.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the 49ers are going to be okay. DeMeco Ryans is an ex-player. He's learned under Saleh for a few years. Fred Warner is the heartbeat of the 49ers defense, and obviously he's a linebacker, and he's got some great things to say about DeMeco Ryans, but it's going to be a transition for sure. I mean, it's not going to just pick up right where they left off, not overnight anyways.
Yeah. It seemed like just from the 4 or 5 years that Saleh was there, that I'm not saying that this is a knock. Like, obviously he knows X's, O's, knows good football, but he just seemed like a phenomenal, just rah guy. Like, just the passion he brought on the sideline. And Brandon Staley had some rah attributes, but was much more of a schematically X's and O's. Like him and McVay were like cut from the same cloth, like the exact same person. And it's interesting too, just random anecdote, that the only 2 interviews that Brandon Staley got were with the Chargers, who hired him, and with the Jets, and the Jets chose Saleh. I can't remember actually who was hired first. I think Saleh was hired first. So the Jets chose Saleh over Staley. But anyway, I think it's a big loss for the Rams too. But the nice thing is Raheem Morris, who has a history with McVay, has said that he's basically going to try to install Staley's defense and just maybe add some of his wrinkles. So it shouldn't be a huge transition for then. So just looking at the rosters now, because you have those coaching changes. You guys obviously also lost, your running game coordinator, who I think Staley took with him to the Chargers. So some losses there, but looking at the coaching and then looking at the overall roster, do you think you guys are better off in 2021 or a little worse from 2020?
Yeah, I mean, roster top to bottom, that's so tough. I would say slightly better, but a lot of that has to do with what I know already happened last year, right? I know that the 49ers were extremely injury prone. I know that they missed more games than any team in NFL history, through the injuries. It was like 165 total games lost, which was insane. So with that bias and knowing that, it's like I've got the answers to the test. Like, that can't happen again. So I've got to assume they're going to be better. But I'll also say this, and I hate to do this now because Richard Sherman just got into some stuff today, and it sounds like a very sad situation over there. So I don't want to be insensitive to that. But as far as a football player goes, and just keeping this on the field, he was shot. He can't play man-to-man, and it was almost as if that Niners defense got better when he couldn't play, because they knew that cover 3 and cover 4 weren't the only option. They could actually play cover 1, and that's a big deal. And if you look at the way that they drafted, and you look at the way that they built the team through free agency and who they brought back, they're going to play a lot more cover 1, and they're going to be able to disguise some blitzes. So with that being said, the health, I'll say they're slightly better than they were in 2020.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's funny you bring up Richard Sherman football-wise, and this isn't the Rams, but he reminds me a lot of what happened with Casey Hayward with the Chargers, who now he's with the Raiders, but same kind of thing. He's been their best corner, but this last year just had lost a step, and his defensive coordinator didn't do him any favors by helping him out at all. But you could just tell that. As far as with the Rams, I think so. Everything I said before about who they lost, not adding anyone, but just the fact of upgrading the most important position on the field, you have to say they're better in 2020 than they were, or better this year in 2021 than they were in 2020. They're able to keep most of the core all together, aside from just a couple guys, but just adding Matthew Stafford, I think, is such a substantial upgrade enough that he propels them past any losses they sustained. Then you add some of the draft guys who I think we'll see 2 or 3, maybe even 4 have really big impacts in year 1. Just because of what we've heard comments from McVay and position coaches. So that being said, I think that they are better this year. And it all starts with the quarterback. And I can't wait to see him actually be on the field and sling it. They had an open practice here in LA right after mini camp, so 2 weeks ago or so, and just seeing him out there, it just the vibe is different somehow. I've been at training camp every year, and this is nothing against Goff. I actually really like Jared, super nice guy, has done a ton for the LA community, but you just tell the vibe around Stafford is different, and this team, they're ready to go. They're ready to roll.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. They have a different swag about them, and you can just tell how smitten McVay is over this kid. So, listen, I mean, it's now or never, right? Like, you got to prove it. You got the quarterback. You put a lot of blame on Goff, much like Shanahan put a lot of blame on Jimmy, right or wrong. And so it's prove it time. So, yeah, I would say adding a quarterback like that, definitely better.
And I think that when the writing was on the wall that McVay was done, ready to move on, it started in, I can't remember the weeks, but it started in Miami, the debacle in Miami when Goff was attributed to 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. And then it maternalized or completed against you guys when I think, again, he had 3 turnovers and just bad ones. And you guys started Nick Mullins that game and beat us. And I know McVay and Shanahan off the field are buddies, but I know they both cannot stand losing to each other. So I think that's when McVay was finally like, into this year, we're moving on from this guy. So absolutely, and they're friends, but that's the worst thing. Losing to your friend because you have to hear about it all offseason is probably the worst possible scenario. Yeah, exactly. So it's funny. We just have a live comment talking about who will struggle more of the loss of the coordinators. We just covered that in the dream. So I think both teams will struggle. I don't think we said who would struggle more. I think it's because I think the same thing with the Niners. Are you gonna kind of keep the same concepts, right? You're not totally changing the defense, or are you?
Yeah, no. I mean, the concepts overall are going to be the same. I just think a lot more cover one, which they did run that a little bit last year and started to transition to that. So I don't think it'll be a huge transition. Both teams are going to miss their defensive coordinators for sure.
I think so, but it won't be a catastrophic losses. We might see like, for instance, the Rams were the number 1 ranked defense. I still think they'll be in the top 5.
Yeah, they might be 3, right?
Yeah, just maybe not 1. So, all right, moving along. So every year I know that there's a free agency period, the free agency frenzy in March, if you will. And then everything's obviously slows down, but then there'll be players added here and there. But every year once training camp hits, we see some guys get added to rosters. Either guys get injured or just veterans that have just been holding out. They maybe not want to practice. They just don't want to be in training camp. Yeah. And 2, just, then some money comes up from whatever the magicians they do, the Tony Pastors of the league that just come up with money somehow. So are there guys you think that the Niners still should be looking at to add, or do you think the roster's pretty much set for them?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would like to see Jimmy go. I mean, that's $24 million they can free up right there, even if they just cut him, right? And so I look at,
not to cut you off, if they cut him, are they free and clear, or do they take some of that on for the year?
Yeah, no, they take on about $2 million. That's it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's big. I mean, $24 million saved. They can roll that right into free agency and then also save some going into next year. So I just look at some depth pieces. I worry about, it's now a 17-game season, so it's a war of attrition.
Yep.
And I know that if Verrett goes down, which, listen, I mean, you've seen Verrett with the Chargers. We're not talking about a picture-perfect health guy here, right? So if Verrett goes down, what happens after that, right? Who's behind that? So I would like to go out and get a corner. I mean, Brian Poole's a guy that I've liked. There's multiple guys out there. Nobody that's going to blow your skirt up, right? But like there's guys out there that are starters in this league or can be starters in a pinch. And then I also look at that edge rush. Listen, Bosa's going to have to be kind of nursed back into playing and coming back full-fledged off of an ACL week 1 and playing 3 downs on a regular basis is not going to happen. So they're going to have to play it safe with him. Maybe he only plays 3rd downs for a couple weeks, whatever that looks like. But you're going to have somebody else there, and you have to have somebody else opposite of him. I imagine that Ebukam, who came from LA, is a guy that they can plug and play there, and maybe he'll do well. But I don't expect anything from D Ford. And when D Ford was on the field in 2019, that's when the 49ers were the most menacing defensive line in football. And so I don't necessarily expect him to play, but I look at guys like, Ingram's still out there. I know that Houston's still out there. There's some decent pass rushers that are available. that definitely could help just bring depth in a pinch, and then also just be pin your ears back, move Armstead inside, and add an extra guy on the line that can really get after the quarterback.
Yeah, that NASCAR package could be real scary if they were to add another one of those. And you hit the nail on the head with what the Rams, I think, would want to do.
Yeah.
The thing is, the Rams have no money. I mean, I say it every week. I have fans all the time on Twitter like, oh, add this guy. The Rams have no money. Like, unless something happens in the next few weeks where they can somehow restructure even more, which they basically restructured every big name guy, every big contract, or one of these vets wants to come in literally on the vet minimum. But their biggest need right now, in my opinion, is depth at edge rusher. You mentioned Ingram. You mentioned Justin Houston. So Ingram makes so much sense just because he wouldn't have to move. He'd stay right in L.A. He's got kind of a flourishing rap career here in L.A. I don't know if you remember from Hard Knocks last year, but he really is into that. So it'd make a lot of sense for him to come over. But again, I mean, last year, I think he's wanting at least $6 million or so. Rams couldn't give him that, so he'd have to come in on the vet. But
for sure.
But yeah, kind of similar thing, just some addition on edge. And then also, I think offensive line, they could maybe add, but I just think what the Rams are so interesting about the Rams is, and maybe the Niners like this too, fans definitely, and this is with every team, I guess, but fans believe a team needs one thing and the team will do the exact opposite. So for years now, fans have been talking about, we need to draft offensive linemen.
You drafted a receiver.
Offensive lineman. Yeah, we drafted a receiver. We drafted a linebacker. We drafted another safety. But the Rams love the guys they have in house. I mean, they drafted Tremaine Akram last year in the 7th round. The 2 years prior, they got, Bobby Evans and David Edwards. So they have depth they like. I think fans just want that Mitchell Schwartz who's still sitting out there, the Austin Ryder still sitting out there in free agency, but the Rams feel good about it. So I can sit here and say, I think they need to add depth, but I just know they won't, considering they didn't take a single guy in the draft. So if they were able to somehow do anything, it would be edge, similar to the Niners.
Right, for sure. Ryan, I really hate to do this. Can you give me a couple minutes? My wife has been blowing me up on the phone, and that usually means something is serious. So can you give me a couple, or you carry it for a few? I really apologize. This has never happened, but I definitely have to make sure that I attend to whatever's going on.
Yes, I'm a married man. I understand.
Okay, all right. Give me a minute.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So while Jesse's doing that, it's the beauty of live sports. So got to take a quick second to talk about my friends at Manscaped. The sun's out, bums are out, and hopefully your pubes are not. Don't worry, our friends at Manscaped have you covered. They just launched their 4th generation performance package. Join the Manscaped movement by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with my code LAFB20. The Lawnmower 4.0 is one of a kind. Best of the generation. LED light for precision accuracy. They got the no nick guard on there. You're not going to want to use any other trimmer, razor, straight blade, whatever. You want the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. It's absolutely fantastic. I have it. I use it often. It's great. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code LAFB20. You're going to get 20% off and free global shipping wherever you are. Tell them the guys at LAFB sent you. You will not regret it. Tame the summer swamp in your pants with Manscaped. I saw a comment in here. Here we go. Let's put this up here. Bigger upgrade at QB, Stafford or Lance? It's a good question. It's a great question. So thank you for that. I think you have to say for now, the bigger upgrade is Stafford just because we know what he is. 12 years in the league. Crazy that it's only been like one Pro Bowl, but the fact that he has MVP type numbers, if you will, just hasn't been with a good organization. And I don't want to blow it up to the sense that, adding Stafford is like adding Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady into that. Like, he's a top 10 quarterback in my opinion, but he's not 1, 2, or 3 where all of a sudden you go from this level to this, but it is a substantial jump. Whereas Trey Lance, who I think was my favorite quarterback outside of Trevor Lawrence in the draft, but we just don't know what he's going to be yet. So you can't call him an upgrade yet. I think he had definitely the potential is great. And when you trade up as much and give up as much as the Niners gave up to get him going from 12 to 3, they obviously believe in that. But but I don't think you can call that upgrade bigger than what Stafford was because, we just know what he is. We know he's going to come in being a veteran presence, having the weapons now he has in Los Angeles, having, prior failures that he's learned from, having the coaching staff now that he has, the offensive coordinator that he has in Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell. So I just think that there's definitely more potential or more known potential, I would say, in that. So for now, I would say the bigger upgrade would be Stafford over Lance. So, that being said, looks like how we doing?
Yeah, I gotta let you go. My yard is flooding. A sprinkler pipe just bust. I turned off the main water. It's still going. I got to figure this out.
Go handle your stuff, dude. Appreciate you.
We will reschedule this because we have some unfinished business. I apologize so much, man. This is just one of those things that I gotta take care of.
Life happens. So good luck. All right, go.
All right, brother. I think
house. All right, man. Take care. So there he is, Jessie Naylor. We'll finish our conversation. Had some more stuff going on, talking Rams and Niners. Life happens. That's what you do when you do live stuff. So, we will definitely pick that up and continue that conversation, before training camp starts. So thank you for those of you that did tune into us live. I'll also get this out on podcast platform. This is the LA Football Podcast. For those that are not accustomed to this, we cover the Rams, Chargers, Trojans, and Bruins. A week away from training camp, I will be at Chargers and Rams camp as many days as possible. Usually, I got to see what scheduling is, but typically scheduling has been real nice. The Chargers have their practice in the mornings, and the Rams do theirs in the afternoons. So I've been able to attend both in the same day, which is kind of cool. When you cover both teams, it makes it nice. So, with that, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and we will continue this conversation with the Rams Chargers with Jessie. I don't know when we're scheduled, but hopefully soon. So hopefully it gets that pipe figured out, because that's definitely an issue. But thank you all for tuning in. And this is the LA Football Podcast. You can find us at the LA Football Network, wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher. Obviously, you're watching right now. You may be watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel would be awesome. Would definitely appreciate it. And check out lafbnetwork.com. We got all written content. Great people, all that write stuff for your Rams, for your Chargers, Bruins, and Trojans. And big things coming this offseason. So shout out to everyone. Thanks so much. Stay safe. Be healthy. We will talk to you all here in just a couple days.